Alright, so today we're gonna talk about weapon loadouts and how to set yours up. This is not something I've seen many people talk about, and it's very subjective. It's mostly preference based, but I'm gonna give some tips and how I set mine up. And let's start with the different kinds of setup. These are the main ones you're gonna see. 4 weapon, 3 weapon, 2 weapon, 5 weapon. There are different ones, and I'm gonna go over pros and cons, but let's go over something a little bit different. First, no weapons. This is just when you want to meme with raw guard only. Never use it when playing seriously. And then one weapon loadout. This makes no sense because having 2 weapons, you don't play any differently. If you don't want to switch weapons, you just don't press the button. So always use at least 2 weapons. With that out of the way, let's go about pros and cons of each number of weapons. First, 2 weapons. This one is the fastest. Both of your weapons are just one switch away from each other. This can be really comfortable, really fast switching weapons. You don't need any practice to get to whatever weapon you need. The trade-off, obvious, you lose a lot of versatility. You lose 2 entire weapons. You lose half your arsenal, basically. If you just cannot handle multiple weapon switching and you just have those 2 weapons that are a lot more preferred than others, I suggest you do double weapon instead of triple or quadruple. That said, I do think you lose out a lot, especially since all the weapons in this game are really fun. Here I have DST and Barog, but like you can have like DST, King Cerberus, you can have King Cerberus, Barog. You can change that for a boss. Personal preference. I think this is kind of restrictive to for my taste, so I don't really use it. Now, 3 weapons is when it starts to get interesting because you have to worry not only about which weapons you're gonna use or which weapon you will be excluding, and not counting Rebellion and that sort of part. I'm gonna count them the same STSD and this because like you probably don't want to do something like this because it's just too redundant. So let's assume you're only using one sword. Now, which weapon to exclude? I think it's the easiest decision. It's just the one you don't like using. A lot of the time it's gonna be Cavaliere. A lot of people don't like Cavaliere. Sometimes it's gonna be King Cerberus. Personal preference, though the order is a bit more interesting. Because what you have to think about when you use 3 weapons is the sequence of your switching. Because to switch from DST to Cerberus is a double switch. So you want your fastest sequences to be just one switch away from each other. So I have a sequence that goes from Barog straight to Cerberus, and I use that a lot. I don't want that to be a double switch. I don't want this to happen. So I would just have to set my order accordingly. Also from King Cerberus to DST, and you try to work with all your favorite interactions. This is personal preference. It's trial and error. There's not much I can talk about. You just have to figure out your own playstyle. 4 weapons, there is that consideration as well, but there's also the consideration that now you have to deal with triple switching. So for instance, for me to go from DST to Cavaliere, it's a triple switch. So it's not super practical, and I do that sometimes, but it's not comfortable. So you have to worry about how each weapon is in proximity to the others and which weapon is right before it. So from Balrog to King Cerberus, it's a triple switch as well. And you can get around that with moves with long animations. So for instance, you can do a flint wheel, and during the flint wheel animation, you do a triple switch. that can also work. But the most important thing is the double switches. Because the double switches, I view them as kind of mini 2-weapon loadouts inside my 4-weapon loadout. So double switching from DST goes to Balrog in this instance, and then from Balrog goes to DST again. Same thing. So King Cerberus double switch, and it doesn't go back, but like it goes forward and overflows to the other side. So having your two weapons that you like to switch back and forth between, one space away from each other, and that way you can really get a good flow. And this also applies to guns. The way I have set up my guns, for instance, I think it's more illustrative of this point. Because Ebony and Ivory and Double Kalinayan are the weapons I use most in the air. So I have them one weapon away from each other. Because Ebony and Ivory can just prevent an enemy from gaining gravity, and Double Kalinayan lifts the enemy from below me to my level. And those are the most useful weapons to have in the air. But Faust is also useful, but I usually use it more after Ebony and Ivory. So I have it right after Ebony and Ivory. And another thing that's quite common to see, and this I think it's less preference and more objectively better, is a lot of people have Ebony and Ivory and then Coyote. And the problem with that is that Coyote, when it comes to combo making, a lot of the good techniques you have to jump cancel out of. And when you jump cancel out of it, you want to follow up with something to stop the enemy from being knocked back. And the fastest way to do that is Ebony and Ivory. So you do Coyote, jump cancel, and then you hit with Ebony and Ivory. And let's get back. And as for the order of the other weapons, it's ultimately preference, but I think my guns are much more locked in than my melee. Melee, it's more preference. 5 weapons. I don't like this, I never use it. And the reason you want 5 weapons is more that you really miss Rebellion or Sparta, like they're interchangeable. Because Rebellion and Sparta, they have some different properties. Namely, you can reverse Helmbreaker and you have instant prop shredder. And that can be really valuable to other players, though that really messes up with the double switch layouts that I have inside my 4-weapon layouts. Because from DST to Balrog is a double, but then it's a double, I'm not at DST, I'm at Rebellion. Not Rebellion, yeah, here, Rebellion. And then from double switch from Rebellion, I go to King Cerberus, and Cavaliere double switching, I'm now at DST instead of being at King Cerberus, so moving forward is kind of okay, but moving back and forth between your loadout is really awkward, and it also introduces more triple switching. And depending on your loadout, if it's the same as me, like sometimes I want to use DST, Summon Swords right after King Cerberus, now it's a quadruple switch, so this would pretty much have to change to be like, I think I would set it like this. Then again, some people like it, I don't. And as for a specific order, I like doing Revolver right after lifting with DST, and Balrog and DST are the weapons that I like using most in the air. And I like going from King Cerberus into Balrog as well, but not necessarily going from Balrog to King Cerberus. But this is ultimately preference. The patterns that you like, you may land up on something like that's entirely different from me, like something like this, like something like this even. Just preference. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this short video. It's more me talking than showing anything. But yeah, have a good one. If you want to support the channel, I have set up a Patreon. If not, that's okay. Just comment, like, and subscribe. And enjoy the videos and have a fantastic week.